Alright guys, such comic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big changes in the CDL for the last couple of weeks, especially big name players calling it a day from professional Call of Duty. Attach certainly one of them, although he did imply that maybe a return could be on the cards if Jetpacks comes back to Call of Duty. But iLLeY was the other big scalpo for the last few days, and the OpTic guys now have given their perspective on iLLeY's departure from competitive Call of Duty, what he meant to them as players, and potentially whether with Jetpacks on the horizon, there could be a return in store. Very much interested your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Of course, there's going to be some debate on this topic, so we're going to move on swiftly from that. XDefiant, I think this tweet was yesterday, so I'm assuming it's today. Now, you know, we used to talk about XDefiant a fair bit because X was getting involved in this Ubisoft game. You know, the intention for it to be was kind of a Call of Duty killer, or at least a Call of Duty competitor. There was talk about the XDefiant Pro League and all of this stuff that we mentioned for some time. You know, there was even a world where guys like Attach, guys like iLLeY, and others that have retired in recent years were, instead of going to play in China, like in the NBA, you know, you'd go and play in the XDefiant Pro League, right? Like that was a big talking point for some time. I know that I talked with Trey a lot about it, and when XDefiant came out, you know, he was scrimming it a bit. There were a few of the players, you know, I think Bance maybe was getting a bit involved as well. You know, there was some talk about, okay, if this actually works, if the game is interesting, if people play it, if there's a competitive scene, then there would be some interest in going to play that, in the same way that the early days of Valorant was effectively just, you know, old school Counter-Strike players that went over to play that instead, and worked out reasonably well for the short time until, you know, the cracked kids came up through the generations, really. Couple of stats to mention. LCQ stats for the Sunday, at least what was streamed. Neum had, you know, of course, going on to win the entire thing as well. The best performance, #1 in all 4 of the categories. Highest kills, highest KD, highest slay rating, highest BP rating as well. Trakes was really impressive as well. Gunless wasn't far away, although, of course, falling short in the tournament. So, you know, these are some key names to keep an eye out for going into next year. Certainly the Esports World Cup as well, depending on who qualifies for that one. We talked about champs earlier today. I did want to quickly mention this. Kyler's COVID test put on the timeline. Not really sure exactly what this is about, but I found it kind of interesting. So anyway, there was a bet placed here on Scrappy winning the MVP of the season. And it anyway looks like that, you know, Bovada have basically paid him out before, because, you know, Scrap was the MVP of Major 4. That was confirmed. But I don't think that's what this was for. So, you know, it's just interesting, right? Because he's not been announced the MVP yet. Scrap will be the MVP. I think nobody really doubts that. I would say 98% likely that is true, but it seems the bookies have already paid out as if Scrap's won it. So maybe they know something we don't. Either it was a mistake, or I don't know. It's just pretty interesting, right? Because if other bookmakers are offering lines on this, and you know the answer is already known, but I can't imagine you're getting good odds on that at the moment anyway, because it's practically guaranteed. But speaking of Scrappy, here he is in the center of the screen here. And these are the players with the highest KDs on each individual map. The great thing about this graphic is, as you'll tell if you scan it left to right, there's no one player appearing twice. Every map has a different player with the best overall KD. On Vault, it's HyDra with a 1.21. On Skyline, it's Simp with a 1.22. Rewind is interesting. It's actually JoeDeceives, averaging a 1.32 whenever he plays Rewind. You'd have thought it might have been Cellium or something, but no, JoeDeceives right up there, minimum 5 maps played. Scrap on the red card. Again, kind of interesting because it is a map that FaZe love to play, but when they play Thieves on it, they did at the major, it didn't go to plan. So that's interesting stuff. Protocol is Cellium, which might not surprise you. Super on Hacienda, actually, which is pretty cool. I'm sure carried a fair bit, actually, by his Search and Destroy. And speaking of Search and Destroy, Dealership is only appearing in that game mode, and Envoy's had a 1.45 so far on that map mode combination since it's been in the game. So thought these numbers were kind of interesting. And speaking of Envoy, he actually moved up our SMG pyramid. So right now, HyDra's the king of the SMGs. I don't think anyone's denying that. Simp is right behind him. Envoy now moves up instead of JoeDeceives. I think that is fair. I think Envoy's been excellent this year. As I said yesterday, I think he's been rather underrated even at times. performed. He swaps places with JoeDeceives after a difficult event for Toronto. I think that's probably justified. Huke moves up another spot after another great major. Neptune stays where he is. Huke replaces CleanX, which is pretty interesting. But again, I think you can justify this based on the recent performances. aBeZy, of course, is here. Real maintains his spot from Miami, which I think is fair to have some representation there from the Heretics. And then Shotzzy gets a bump back up as well. So I think this is actually a really nice pyramid the boys put together here last night. But let's talk about Shotzzy and Huke, to be fair, because one of their former teammates in iLLeY, and of course, you know, Attach has been around a long time as well. We'll get into that as well in a second. But the iLLeY drama was a major talking point over the last couple of seasons. From, I mean, everything about iLLeY's crew is kind of remarkable. Coming into the league, first year winning the World Championship, then staying on Dallas Empire when Huke gets dropped, does pretty well still. iLLeY that season, they made a finals. You know, they could have won it against FaZe that year. The following year, obviously all hell kind of breaks loose. The roster change happens, the roster merge happens between OpTic and Envoy. iLLeY is then, you know, given the opportunity over there on that team. It could have been a very different story. You know, let's not forget, Kremp did not end up on OpTic Texas, whereas, you know, despite the fact that they did the Dallas Empire OpTic merger, iLLeY was there instead. And look, that made some sense at the time, and it wasn't necessarily a bad decision because they went into the first event and won it. But after that, the thumb injury, you know, whatever the hell happened in Boston last year at Major 1, which is still a bit of a talking point, led iLLeY to a path where he didn't get a full season in for a couple of years, ended up down in Challenges, didn't have the greatest time down in Challenges, probably lacking a bit of motivation down there, and decided as of a few days ago that he was going to call it a day. Appreciate everyone who's had my, you know, back through the career. Just wanted to say I'm thankful for everyone I met, and on the 23rd of May, iLLeY decided to officially hang up the sticks. Now, we've seen it before, players hang up the sticks and they come back. For iLLeY, I think it's pretty likely that he may well stay retired. But I think it is sad. It's a shame for the COD scene, I think, that iLLeY has called it a day because, you know, iLLeY's, what, 23 years old, something like that? And Dashy is talking about it thinking, wow, like, I owe a lot to iLLeY, right? In the early days, iLLeY was the one who was a notable search and destroy kid who gave Dashy the chance to play twos with him a lot of the time. Dashy was begging him to let him play with him. And then, you know, that really gave Dashy his opportunity. There's also plenty of stories about how important iLLeY's, you know, mindset is for the success that they previously had. And I think how highly Shotzzy, Huke, and Dashy all talk about iLLeY tells you a lot about like how valuable he was to their careers and to their teams that they had in the past. The fans may not always see that, but certainly he's going to be a player that the pros will not forget. But, you know, the question really, I suppose, therefore becomes, well, you know, if he was this good, what happens? / did he waste a lot of potential? / could he still potentially return?
Oh, yeah, Touch retired, dude. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, you should put iLLeY retired, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? We don't care about it.
Yeah, we don't care about Yoda.
Bro,
that's crazy, bro. They're really retired, dude. What?
Yeah, that's crazy.
What is this, dude?
Everybody retiring, bro.
He's 23. Wow, man. I fucking feel bad. I'm not even trolling this guy, dude. Wow.
This guy was him, bro.
This guy was actually him, dude. I fucking miss Ender. I actually miss Ender, bro. Straight up. He was him, man. But whatever he is doing now or whatever he's gonna do, I wish truly nothing but the best.
No bullshit.
This guy was actually fucking one of a kind.
This guy's the reason I'm here. In a way.
Same. Low key.
I was making no bread, S&D. Then I just started playing 2v2s with Ender, and then wow, started making some bread. This guy basically bought me my PC from all the primes we won.
Bro, y'all were winning everything.
Yeah.
Even this kid did.
So we picked up Cell, and then now Cell's taking the fuck out of me. And
one of the most passionate Call of Duty players.
Nah, definitely.
He might be the most
I've ever teamed with.
Nah, he's definitely the most passionate I've ever teamed with for sure. I think yeah, I would say at least, because fuck me, dude. This guy was breaking headsets and shit. Yo, I'm not gonna lie. Yo, his go-to whenever we would lose like a tournament, he'd break his controller. That was like his go-to. like he had to do it. Like it was like something. There was like something about it.
Like, yo, right here. Before he broke the headset, he made sure to say, "Brandon, you could have came up." Yeah. He was like, "Brandon, you could have came up with me," and then broke the headset. I'm like, yo, I scanned, man. Well, look, we look good though at this time, though. And then look, and then he smashed it.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's funny.
Nah, bro.
That
If
was
I was
funny.
Brandon, I'd be pissing myself.
Nah, because I remember thinking like, wow, I just know because that was the series where none of us could shoot straight, and I was thinking, bro, I'm telling you, out of free kill, I was shooting the bananas. What was this? Is this major one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it has to be.
Where fucking everyone took me out, I think.
Yeah,
Was it this one?
it has to be, right? Like, I think that's ESA. Oh, it is. It is.
You guys won this event, right?
What is he in here? Look at me. Am I just trolling? I think I'm going for Aura Farms. What the fuck? I actually don't remember that. I actually don't remember that.
Oh wow, man. Yeah, and then Dill retired too, dude. You shout out Dill.
But shout out Dill, man. Attach.
Shout out fucking Dill, dude. That's my guy, man.
Shout out to Dylan. Never lost his 1v1s attach. Never lost
You
his
think Dill has
ones.
the most iconic like fucking clutch or whatever?
Like he has a lot of fucking. He has a lot of 1v1 wins that are just icy as fuck.
Nice to see Attach get some love from the OpTic guys as well. Of course, the famous clutch they're talking about, the 1v3 artillery on London docks against OpTic famously, right? But yeah, of course, you know, look, Attach was not before their time because obviously those guys shared a lot of competing time with Attach, but they know iLLeY better because they were closer with iLLeY for longer. And yeah, the way that Shotzzy just said he's a one-of-a-kind player, Huke said he's the most passionate player probably ever that he's seen. And, you know, just for iLLeY maybe not to have got the results, like he's a world champion. He walked away a multiple champion, multiple, you know, tournament winner, as I say, one-time world champion in 2020. But I think when iLLeY was coming into the scene, you know, many would have expected him to achieve more results than that in his career. But I think there have been multiple factors that have led to the situation that we currently find ourselves in. So very much interested to your thoughts and all that stuff in the comment section below. Just one final couple of things. Speaking of legendary performances at the World Championship, this is formal with his card. I did mention it briefly yesterday that, you know, so this is specifically for the World Championship in 2017 that they went on to win in Infinite Warfare. Formal at a 1.49 in hardpoint, a 1.44 in surge, and a 1.38 in uplink. Like, the guy was out of control. Still really considered the best individual event performance of all time. Certainly given the importance of the event, it was the World Championship. I think it must just be quickly noted on this that back then, there was a group stage before the bracket. So at this World Championship, as was the case pre-CDL, there were 32 teams at Champs. You'd play a group with 3 other teams. OpTic then won the group. So my point that I'm trying to make is that for the top teams, the top players, you could farm stats early in the tournament, right? Because, you know, they played 3 matches in the groups. The first round of winners that OpTic played this tournament was against, it was like Mind Freak Black or something. I think it was like some, you know, they got a great seed, basically, for their first round game. So Formal's numbers in the final section of the tournament weren't, I'm pretty sure anyway, quite as good as they were in the first half when he was, you know, farming numbers. But this is how it was back then, right? But my point is that this 1.44 from Formal this tournament is very difficult to beat nowadays in an event like Champs, because you turn up to Champs, you're already playing great teams off the bat. So, you know, that's kind of the point, is that the performance from Formal was impeccable. I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but the point that I'm really trying to make is that even coming close to this performance is probably not even possible nowadays. So very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
I have space there. I have space there. Okay.
That's open.
I'm pushed through there. I have space case on in my.
Is on this?
I have it right now.
Taking a lucky timing.
No, he's a 2A.
He's you. One
Got
guy's
him,
you. You TJ.
And our friends. Brandon, watch out.